Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix's 392nd film from 2021. It's the Indonesian comedy drama called Ali Ratu Ratu Queens. It's directed by Lucky Kuswandi and stars Iqbaal Ramadhan, Aurora, Ribero, and Nirina, Zubir. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today for this episode. As always, if you haven't seen this Indonesian film and you're interested in giving it a watch or checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because as we go, we will spoil this film. We do like to start our show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So it gives you a little bit of background info as to the story and what's happening. So this one's about a young man from Indonesia who travels to New York City to track down his long-lost mother. So if you're in the mood for a story about loss and hope and love and trying to find someone that you've been longing for your whole life, this one might be for you. As is often the case with some international films, it's hard to find out anything about how it ended up on Netflix or how it was put together. So this film did have the working title of just Ratu Ratu Queens, and I think if we need to look at the Indonesian translation of what that means, and that literally translates to Queens. So if we're actually breaking it down into English, so we've got Ali, he's the young man, and he's going to New York City, and he hangs out with these queens in New York, if that makes sense. So the actual direct translation is Ali and the queen from Queens. So many queens in the one word, so that's a little bit funny. In Spanish, Czech, and Greek, it's Ali and the Queens. That simplifies it a little bit. That's quite nice. In Portuguese, it's called They're in Queens. Sure, that makes sense. In French and Russian, it's called Ali and the Queens of Queens. That's all right too. Hungarian, it's Ali and the Queens of New York. Specifies it a bit more. Good. In Japanese, it's Ants and Queens. I'm not sure. Don't get that one. Chinese, it's Me and the New York Super Queen. Yeah, that's all right. Vietnamese, Ali and Queens. But probably a little bit weird if you're talking about the aunties. And in the UK and the USA, it was just called Ali and the Queen. So a few different variations on the title. That's about it. On August the 15th of 2024, so this is 3 years after the film was released, Netflix announced that a prequel series under the working title of Ratu Ratu Queens was in production. So the tagline for this is, it's not the tagline, but the logline is that leaving behind their homes in Indonesia, 4 women with different personalities venture across the ocean to start new lives in Queens, New York. It's a 6-episode series, which is hitting Netflix next week on the 12th of September. So quite topical that I'm doing this episode right now. So 6 episodes hitting Netflix next week. That's maybe once we get through this episode, make a little bit more sense as to my thoughts on this film too. So this did hit Netflix, the film, on the 17th of June 2021. It was filmed in New York City as well as Jakarta in Indonesia, and it had 28 nominations across award season, as well as 2 wins. A majority of these are obviously nominations across the Indonesian Film Society and things like that. So 15 of these 30 were at the Festival Film Indonesia, so for a variety of different categories. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? This one, it only has 1 review on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, and that's rotten, so no consensus there. The audience, however, has it at 75%. That is on less than 50 ratings, though, but fairly high. IMDb sits at a 7 out of 10 on 1,700 ratings. Again, that's extremely high. Letterboxd, a 3.3 out of 5, very high too. That's on nearly 11,500 ratings, and it's been logged by 14,000 people. So this looks very positive, very, very positive. What are my early thoughts on this film? It's got this big soap opera feel, I feel, that I've almost become accustomed to with these Indonesian-style dramas that we've covered on this show. It's way too long, way too long. There are some scenes in this film that are so slow and dragged out for no reason at all. And there's some big concerns with the characters that it just doesn't really hold up for me. So I'm not a big fan of this one, unfortunately. A bit like, so the opposite to what the socials and the Instagrams and all of those sorts of social platforms are doing that I saw that promoted this film. So that's where we're at. All right, the characters. And this was one where I sat down. I was like, I'm not going to have much to say about this film, but you might have to listen to me for a little bit, because I'm going to talk a little bit, especially about the characters. So Ali is in the film title. This is his story. He is a 17-year-old boy who puts himself almost on this one-way adventure to New York City to find his beloved mother that he hasn't seen since he was a little kid, because she got up and bailed on him. And this film revolves around Ali trying to find her, and this group of Indonesian immigrant women who support him and help him on his quest. And along the way, he falls for one of their daughters. I think it looked like her name was Ava, but while watching the film, obviously, this film is in Indonesian, and they do speak English throughout as well, but it sounded like her name was Queet. I'm not sure. And the way that they fall for each other, it's the way that you only see in these romantic Indonesian films. They've obviously got cultural barriers that they need to uphold as well, to uphold religious ideas too. So Ali, he's an artist, he's an animator, he's a visual arts producer. Obviously, he's going to fit in well in New York City, but obviously because his mother's bailed on him and his father's recently passed away, when he does die, he wants to find her. Even this sort of means that he disappoints his conservative family in Indonesia and his aunt and his cousin who are there to support him as well. Ali's mother, Mia, this is a woman who bailed on her family to pursue a career in singing in New York City. And when Ali finds her, she rejects him and is more worried about the impact of him being there in New York and what it will have on her new family. She's got a husband and a daughter and those sorts of things. So she obviously feels shame, embarrassment, regret, but really doesn't do anything to fix this. I mean, there's a nice little montage where she hangs out with Ali for a bit, but that's about it. And I guess the final scene we see of her on screen is that she's telling her husband possibly about Ali, but it's all too late. And I found that really problematic, and especially the aunts. So obviously the queens are the aunts, and they're mentioned in the title of the film as well. I think there was Party, Ansi, Chinta, and Biam, the four aunts, and they all have like one little trait each, that they've been cheated on by husbands, or they clean, or they work hard, and they obviously all work hard because they want to open this restaurant together, but none of them are developed or realistic characters other than almost support mechanisms for Ali and his journey throughout the film. And that's where earlier on I mentioned that there's this television miniseries coming out that's going to tell their journey of arriving in America, and maybe that will help, and maybe that will give a little bit more context to these characters. The director, Lucky Kuswandi, he's got 13 directing credits. Some shorts, some features, apparently up-and-coming director in Indonesia. So good luck. I want to see success for people that are breaking the mold in their country. So that's good to see. Let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that worked? What didn't work? Some things that worked for me. There's these intercuts throughout the film of Ali's video editing and animation and art. They were all super cool, which was good. The ladies or the aunties, they sort of, when he arrives, they con him into paying some high rent to stay with them, and they make a joke. They say all of the money that he's got, and they make a joke about stealing the cash while you sleep. I thought that was a little bit funny. When the aunties are off working, one of them gets him to work with her at this sort of massage parlor or waxing this old hairy man. I thought that wasn't too bad. That was quite humorous. Good on the aunties. They make a hash cake at one stage and sit on the rooftop and get pretty high. That was quite funny. Ali and his mum, they're in this alley when an alleyway, so not alley, too many alleys. So Ali, the character, and his mum, they're in this alleyway when she says, and goes on this idea about, I'm a bad mother, I've abandoned you. I thought it was impactful about that idea about she can't forgive herself, so she wants him to hate her. I thought that was well done. And Ali plays his forgiveness video at the end to the aunties, which was sweet, and he asks if he can stay with them, and the comment was, yep, but the rent's gone up. I thought that was funny too. But in saying that, a couple of good moments, there's a lot that didn't work, a lot of things that I really didn't like. The idea that Mia, Ali's mum, she leaves her son, obviously, if we get this at the start, so we get the context of the film, leaves her son, leaves her husband. It's meant to be sad. It's not sad. The way they do it, it's pouring down rain, just these cliches that it just didn't work. Ali's dad, he's died, and he's going through all of the belongings, packing the house up, and there's this drawer. We get this camera shot of this drawer. It's locked. Ali can't open it. We get a quick cut of his face, and then he just back to him, and he actually opens it. Like, what the? Like, there was it was pointless. The first time that Ali goes to see his mum, and she closes the door on him, and she leans against the door all worried, and then we cut to him vomiting in a bin. It just looks so fake. That was really lame. There's this food van scene where the ladies are getting Ali a meal. They're trying to rev him up, and there's this African-American lady who gives him some inspirational rubbish about things work out, don't give up. And then the guy serving the food at the van is like, Allah's going to help you, give you free food. It just tied into these undertones, I guess, especially at the start when he left home and his auntie's like, when you go to America, don't eat pork. And then straight after this food van scene, he sees this sticker on a lamppost that says, you belong here. It was just a little bit of a laughable sort of moment to just chuck in all this stuff to try and give him some inspiration. It just didn't work on the screen. There's a montage of the ladies all showing Ali around New York City, around town, and there's a cut of them showing him how to swipe his train card at the train station. He had already got the train twice prior in this film without them. It just did not make sense. He got the train to get there from the airport. Like, it just frustrated me. Ali follows his mum at one stage to some Christmas gift craft shop. She's there with her daughter, and he just stands in the window. It was weird. It was super weird. When the aunties are off working and Ali's helping them out, there's one of the aunties, like a paparazzi photographer, and Ali's there with her, and they go to take photos, and Ali manages to get a photo that no one else does. There's a big pack of journalists there, and that was just like it. There was no follow-up. I didn't show, yep, he's got some cash, he's contributed to the family. No, it was just like, you got a photo, cool, that was it. There's this scene where all of the ladies take Ali to a thrift shop to try on some clothes. Like, it was pointless. It just went on for too long, other than being a moment for him to be introduced to that daughter, the Queet chick or whatever her name was as well. And then we get this whole montage of Ali and this Queet chick falling in love with each other. It was lame, especially like she's a singer, so there's this little dance that he has with her, and it's like this little hold of each other, and then he, in this montage, in text on his hand, he writes, "I'm home," with a shot of New York in the background. It was just lame. And then this new girlfriend that he's got takes him to some class for his artwork, and they all do this interpretive dance, which the camera shots just hover, and then he just refused to join, just says to the teacher, "I'm not doing it." I just felt weird. But then later on, it's like, well, we've got to close this. So he's sad, so he does this dance, in the city in the backdrop, because it apparently frees yourself. Oh man. Finally, Ali tells the aunties that they're all losers, unlike his mum, and he storms off. And this is like 15 minutes to go in the film, that they've got to resolve this, and he's like, "I'm going to prove you all wrong." It just felt over the top and not needed. A bit of a blow up at these ladies that had actually been there and done a lot for him as well. What are some themes? What are some ideas? What's this film trying to say? Obviously, that home is where the heart is. What makes a family? It doesn't necessarily have to be blood. That maternal longing, that longing for a mother, the idea of you can't prevent a child from being with their mum, that plays throughout. The migrant experience of living in the Big Apple, the struggles, the connection to home and to those who can relate, and also those that you can protect and take under your wing, that fish out of water scenario too. For Ali, this is about a journey too, aiming for closure and acceptance and chasing a dream, whether that's career-wise or whether that's family-wise. And the importance of education is sprinkled throughout, because those difficulties in life are meant to make you stronger. What did I take away from this? Like I've said this a few times, the film was so slow. There are so many scenes that drag on for too long. Like Ali, he moves in at New York and he puts all his drawings on the bedroom wall. It just stays forever. The idea of that dancing in the classroom, so many others. This needs a good edit. If this was like a 90-minute film, it might have worked a bit better. Some questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas. Like New York City, it's obviously got this dazzling appeal. And I don't know if anyone, like if you've been there or if you live there, the idea that, does it still have that appeal? Is it still as appealing as it has been shown across the screen with, or across music as well? Jay-Z, Frank Sinatra, these great big songs about this city that never sleeps, and that idea, like, is it dazzling? And why do migrants push for that idea of New York being the place that, the Statue of Liberty obviously represents freedom and being free, but is it all that it's worked up to? I don't live there, so I'm not sure, but it's just an interesting thing to ponder. There's a scene where the first time Ali goes to see his mum, and he's there to deliver rendang, the dish, because he's heard from his dad that it was her favourite dish. And the mum, this is that moment where she closes the door on him, but she's got this bunch of women over. They're all in there drinking. It's like, who are they? What were they doing? It just was a bit of an interesting scenario. I'm not sure that you needed those women there. They didn't add anything. The poor dad, like, I felt bad. We only get to see him in the opening moments, but literally bailed on. But good on him for standing his ground and telling Mia, the mum, don't come back. The struggle of that and bringing him up, knowing that your wife has chosen her career over her family. And not only that, but moved a long way away. Ali has this cousin, Punk, I think his name was. We see him at the start a couple of times. He's some YouTuber or something. He pops up throughout the film on video call, etc. Like, what the hell? Like, at the end, he gets on a plane to go to New York, and then it's just him there. Is the idea that it's meant to be him chasing his dreams too, and that enticement of New York that I just spoke about? Because I'd have a long, hard think at the end of this film. This happens as the credits are rolling, and making his journey there as this happened felt a little bit ordinary while I was actually watching it. Like, I was thinking, is this a setup for a sequel? Is he there to just visit his cousin and check in on him? It just felt a little bit off, especially when it was a character that we didn't really care about. So who cares that he's coming to New York City? And Ali and his mum, they go on this tour of New York. This is that one moment they spend together, and he thinks, cool, I've got my mum. and they're at Times Square, and they literally have this one shot of the signpost that says Times Square, and they didn't put any footage there. It just felt so weird narrative-wise, and I get that later the footage of them being at Times Square was used in his video piece that he was making, so it makes sense that they saved that reveal, but it just felt a little bit awkward, just like this B-roll sort of moment. Anyway, I'm done. I'm finished. Let's wrap this up. We give the film a rating out of 5 on this show. For me, it's a nice effort getting an Indonesian film made in New York City. That's good, but there's a lot of cringeworthy stuff in this, and for a country that's got one of the largest populations in the world, the idea is that the way they make film probably isn't necessarily made for Western audiences, and I get that. So I really like the idea that this is landed for the target audience at home, and maybe I just don't get the appeal because it's not the type of film that I've been brought up on. For me, this is a little bit of fluff, and maybe that Netflix series that's coming out, it's going to give the aunties the backstory that they deserve too. So I'm giving this a 2 out of 5, not an absolutely horrendous score, but 2 out of 5 for me. We're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like. The question that I was going to put out for this episode ties in again. Why is New York seen as that city of dreams? And it's that idea. I can make it there. I can make it anywhere. So is that what it is? Is that appeal of New York City? If I'm moving across the world, this is just a side. If I'm moving across the world to a new country, I'm probably going to want to settle my feet in somewhere that's not quite as hustly and bustly as New York, to be honest. But that's just me. What are your thoughts? Let us know. We are back next week with another international film. This one's from India. It's the Tamil language 2021 film. It's an action thriller. It's called Yagamai Thandraham. It's directed by Karthik Subaj and stars Dhanush, James Cosmo, Joji George, Ashwara Lakshmi, and Kalasarayan. I know I stuffed some names up there. I'll practice them for the next week. It looks like a long film. I think it's about 2 hours and a half, 2 hours 40 possibly. Know nothing else about it. So let's get on board. Give that one a watch over the next week. Thanks as always for joining me today, and I will see you next week.